Okay, so it's 8:34, so let's get started. Everyone, just if you haven't been on one of these before, I'll introduce myself again. I know a number of you have. I'm Kim Whitehead. I'm the general manager of the Woodstock Chamber of Commerce, and together with Ramona Gallagher, if Ramona wants to give everybody a wave, from the Small Business Center and the area chambers like Tillsonburg Chamber, Ingersoll Chamber, Norwich Chamber and BIA, and Tavistock BIA. We've put together these events, 17 events for Small Business Week. So we hope you've enjoyed them. We put them on free for everyone, and most of our presenters, almost all of our presenters, have been doing the same thing for us to give this valuable information to everybody in Oxford County. Today we have, or this morning we have Karen Sample. She's the president of 31st Line Communications, and she's going to be doing the branding webinar for us. So without further ado, I'm going to leave it to Karen to introduce herself and her qualifications, and we'll go from there.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you to Kim and to Ramona for all the effort you guys have put into organizing this. It always makes me very proud to be a member of the Chamber and to have the Small Business Center in Oxford, because you do so much. And happy, very, very honored to be asked to participate and help you today, and to give back too. And hopefully I can help a few businesses with a few tips here and there. So I'm as Kim said, I'm the owner of a business, but my training in brand is that I'm a certified brand strategist, and I've basically been doing marketing and communications for over 30 years. I started off as a corporately, and then I transferred over to the agency world, and now I'm eventually running my own business where we deliver communications to all manner of companies. We specialize in brand, digital, campaigns, you name it. We pretty much do it all. And I've worked with big companies and I work with very small companies. So the Certified Brand Strategist is a 6-month course I took out of the US. I'm the only one in Canada that's gone through that certification. But it's training for agency owners about how to do brand, and it trains us in a process, and it's a think tank of other agency owners. And I found that's one of the most valuable things I've done to help my clients along the way. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today, is some of that philosophy and how it may fit in with your business. So what are we going to talk about today? First of all, we're going to talk about what a brand is and what a brand isn't. I just want to get us all on the same page. And I know a lot of you will already know the definition of a brand, but I just want to make sure you understand how we in the brand establishment define a brand and why we do that. So we're going to talk about what your why is. We're going to talk about what makes you different and how you back that up. What's your proof? I'm also going to spend a few minutes about brand and your employees, not a long time, because we have a wide range of businesses on here. Some of you will have employees and some of you may not. So I don't want to dwell on that. But in the age of COVID-19, I've found as a business owner that a lot of things have changed. There's a lot of stress. I just had an incident yesterday where I actually went down to my staff and I had a chat with them because I said, this is not our brand and this is not okay. So, and I mean, there's a lot of stress going on right now. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is we all have a lot going on. So how can you be strategic as a small business in terms of, making sure that what you're doing is the best bang for your buck, and how you're going to get, how do you prioritize? How do you be strategic? So I have some suggestions and some thoughts around that in terms of knowing your customers, how they like to get information, and about your own website, some basics there, and digital lead generation. So I'm going to do a high-level presentation today and not get into the weeds a lot. However, if you have questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to get into more. So first we're going to test out the chat box. So I want to know how people define a brand. How would you define a brand? Is it a logo? Is it a tagline? Is it a product? Is it a positioning? Is it a promise? I can't see the chat box, Kim, so you're going to need to help me. I got to figure out, now that I've got it all up on screen, I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. Participants. There we go. Just a minute. Chat. There we go. Now I can see it. All of those, I've got product, all of the above. It's a mission statement. Ron said all, Derek, all of the above. Okay, so that's good. Now I'm not going to give you the answer right away, but we're going to go on and talk about that a little bit more. So, well, brand is more than a logo. So if I show you these two logos, I'm sure you've both seen them at one time or another. And, you know, you can buy a bed for a night at either one of these. If you go to Motel 6, you can get a bed for a night. If you go to Ritz-Carlton, you can get a bed for a night. They both sell the same thing. However, do they? Is their customer base the same? No, like what the logo represents is much deeper, right? It gives you the feeling and it tells you what to expect about the deeper brand behind those logos. So like at Motel 6, I won't make everybody, what do you expect? Well, what do you expect at Motel 6? Anybody in the chat box? Chat box, I lost again. There it is. There it is. Let's see, one new message. You got it, Kim? I'm just, a discount. Yeah, exactly. We expect like cheap and cheerful, right? What do you expect at Ritz-Carlton?
People are.
Yep, go ahead.
High-end.
High-end luxury experience. I'm seeing, yep. You know, that's exactly it, right? So they're very different, even though they sell a bed for a night, their audiences and who they're targeting are very, very different, right? So that's where your brand is much deeper than the logo, right? So I just I love to do these examples and just talk about this with people. Okay. Okay. Whoops, it's much more than a product as well. So again, Starbucks and Tim Hortons both sell coffee. We can get coffee. But what do you expect at Tim Hortons? You know, it's going to be always fresh. We're going to pay cash. We're going to get in and out of there. You know, it's pretty down to earth, right? Starbucks, did you know you can pay $20 for a cup of coffee? It's about the barista and it's about the language they use. And it's a grande as opposed to a large. And you know, a large double is like grande, don't even ask me. I have trouble ordering at Starbucks, but it's about the ambiance. It's about the whole customer experience at Starbucks. So they both sell a similar product, technically, if it comes right down to it, a cup of coffee. However, the experience you're going to get there is very, very different. So again, that just goes to show that the product, it's much deeper than just a product, right? So the way we define brand at the brand establishment is if you look it up in the dictionary, it'll say a unique claim of distinction, but anybody can make a claim. So at the brand establishment, we like to define it as evidence of distinction. So in other words, you know, it's a deliverable set of promises that you make to your customers, basically. And that gives them a very compelling reason to do business with you. So it's also for us at the brand establishment, we define it and we add in Simon Sinek philosophy. And we believe it's not only what you do, it's why you do it. Your why is really important. And your why is the purpose, cause, or belief of an organization. I'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. So the other distinction I want to make this morning is a brand. I do two things. I mean, I do brand development, and that is helping companies finding their unique claim or claims of distinction and develop their brand language. Then once we have that done and have the language as a basis, we also do all the branding around that. So if you hear me talking about branding, I'm talking about logos, visuals, taglines, products, campaigns, websites, social media. That's all branding. Brand development is the work behind that helps you define your brand, find your unique value points, find your unique selling proposition, and make sure you truly understand who you are and why you're in business, so you can communicate that clearly to your clients. So how can your brand stand out? Well, I really do believe in Simon Sinek philosophy, which he says that the most successful companies think, act, and communicate differently. So what does that mean? That he talks about something called the golden circle. Now, this has been around for a few years. It's just as valid today as it was when it first came out. The brand establishment started using this early on, and we still use it today. So Simon Sinek says that every company out there knows what you do. You know that you make bread. You know that you make deliver workshops, that you educate kids, that you sell soap, whatever it is. We know what we do. Everybody knows what we do. Most of us know how we do it in terms of being different too. We have, we have a patent, we have a proprietary machine, we have something that makes us different, right? That we do it differently a little bit. But he says that very, very few companies really understand why they do what they do, the deeper why of what makes you get up in the morning, what made you start this business. And it's not to make money. That's a result of a much deeper why. That's the end result. But the why is something that really, what are you passionate about? Why would you ever go into this business in the first place? That's your why, your purpose, cause, or belief. So he says that, most people would say, for example, if Apple could communicate by saying, we make computers, we make iPads, we make iPods, we use a different, how do we make them different? Well, we use a different operating system. Oh, and you want to buy one, and you can get into, well, we use this and we do that, and it has this specs and it has that specs and in the what. So then we get down into the weeds, and we're always talking about features and benefits as opposed to starting at a more high level conversation. When you start with the why, you start by saying, we exist to challenge the status quo. That's Apple's why, is we exist to challenge the status quo. We do that by creating products that make people's lives easier, communication items that will make people's lives easier. They're simple to use, they're beautifully designed, and they're gonna be easy to operate. And oh, by the way, we happen to make a computer, we make an iPad, we make an iPod, we make this, we make an iWatch, by the way. So when I'm thinking that through, if somebody says to me, you want to buy a computer now? No, I got a computer, I don't need another computer. If somebody says to me, we exist because we challenge the status quo, all of a sudden they've stopped me because it's a different way of communicating. And they say, and I go, wait a minute, I challenge the status quo. I'm always rowing upstream. I always say that. I'm like, I look at the path and I can go downstream, but no, okay, I always have to go upstream. So then I'm already thinking, I like how this company thinks. So I'm curious. So then they say, how? And I'm like, how? Okay, how do you do it? Well, you're going to make my life easier. I refer to myself as a techno idiot. I'm like, great. Bring it on. I mean, you're going to make my life easier. Oh my gosh, help me. It's going to be easy. Wow. Thank you. Like, what do you got? So by the time I get to the what, it's like, I already know I'm going to buy Apple. And I know that, it's like, what do you got? And I'm going to buy one of those and one of those and one of those and one of those. So my decision set has changed. I've decided early on that I really like how this company, I've made a deeper connection, a brand connection, because I like that company's why. And they understand at a deep level what's really driving them to make communication devices. So any questions so far? Let's
Nothing
see.
in the chat box yet.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So basically, I wanted to I'm going to condense a little bit about the brand language part here to what I would normally do, because normally when I do a brand session, I would do 2/3 of a day with a company to help them develop brand language. So what we'll do today was just talk about some of the elements and how you get there, and I'll share an example. So the critical thing, one of the most critical things I would suggest businesses can do to make sure they, sorry, see, techno idiot, is to make sure they stand out, is to articulate your brand. So it's not, you may know what makes you different, but do all your employees know? Is it written down? Is it clear? Is it something that relates to your client? Write it down. It's critical to have it in writing. So, and I would recommend that you think of it this way. You think of what are my 3 to 5 unique claims of distinction? So what makes us different? What do we stand for? I call them stakes in the ground for companies. These are the things we're going to deliver on and be best in class at. Doesn't mean you're the only one, but we're going to be best in class. So we're going to have, superior customer service or excellence in customer service, second to none customer service. We're going to have second to none quality. We are going to have, the best, whatever. We're going to be, this is where our differentiation is. This is something we have that our competition doesn't have, okay? So think about that. And then backed by proof, but proof really is facts. So if I say to you, that's really some examples of, give me some examples of how you back that up. So if I say to you, well, one of my unique claims of distinction is that I'm going to deliver second to none customer service, and you can reach me 24/7. I can be reached 24/7. Then, okay, well, what do you mean by that? How do I get a hold of you 24/7? Well, I've invested in a 1-800 line. Here's the phone number, and I have that staffed, 24/7. So you can always get a hold of somebody, and, they have other numbers to reach experts, blah, 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 blah. I'm just making this up as I go, of course, but you get the drift, right? There's your backup as well. I've thought this through. So I don't just say that, I actually deliver on that. So that's the important part about evidence of distinction. It's thinking about what makes you different, but also some examples of how you back that up so that if you're asked and somebody who ever were to challenge you, More importantly, for those of you that have employees, if they get challenged, they know what to say. So, and that's, you back it by that proof. So, and then you develop an elevator speech from there, which is basically, I'm going to explain that in a moment, but it's your 100 words or less about your why, 3 to 5 unique claims of distinction, and then why should we care? So a so what sentence at the end, or we call it an equal statement. So the critical things you can do are to make sure that you're sharing it. If you have employees, share your brand language consistently with employees, share your brand language consistently with your clients, and make sure that when you're developing any kind of branding around your business, that you're sharing the messaging consistently, that you're reinforcing those messages. That will make you stand out, because brand starts from the top down. It starts from the inside out. And those that really understand and reinforce brand will rise to the top, because they're communicating clearly and consistently about what they are, who they are, and what makes them different. And that will make any business stand out regardless of size. Okay. So, and I mean, this also, if you've thought this through, this means that you won't allow your competition or any competition you have to position you. Because I've worked with companies where that was the case. I did Pioneer Hybrid for 10 years. I developed all their campaigns and did all of their their campaign work for across Canada for about 10 years. And when I first started working for them, and I'm dating myself, this is quite a number of years ago, they had competition competition had done a very good job of saying, here's our niche and here is where we shine. And it's true, Pioneer wasn't as strong in that area. So Pioneer made the mistake of saying every time the competition would go out there and challenge that and say, we're the best in this area, because they really were good in it, then Pioneer would react. They'd want to react. I once had to turn a campaign around for them in 3 weeks, just as a reactionary campaign. And at the time, I thought, oh my gosh, what are you guys doing? Because you're not reinforcing your brand. Eventually, I got through to them and I said, look, why are we letting them position us? Why are we fighting on their ground? Why are we not, saying, using our brand to reinforce who we are? And basically, we finally got our statements down at the time. This isn't full brand language, but what we did was we said, well, that's nice. But, basically, every 1 out of every 2 fields of corn and soybeans, or more people plant Pioneer than any other brand of corn and soybeans across Canada. And it's true, 1 out of 2 fields at the time that you drive by would be, if it was corn or soybeans, it was 1 out of 2 would be Pioneer. So yeah, and the competition can't counter that, because that's a fact. It was, how do we prove that? 1 out of every 2 fields is Pioneer out there. So that really did stop them and got them out of their reactionary phase. And it really started moving them forward. They grew a lot in Canada. I'm not taking credit. There were a lot of things that went right, but that was certainly one thing I know that helped them get going in the right direction from the communication point of view. So brand language. So your why statement, your purpose, cause, or belief. So I'm going to show you the Chambers brand language in a moment, but your why is, as I always phrase a why as, you get up in the morning to do this. I get up out of bed every day to do this, so that, and a result. Okay. So my own, and I'm not trying to sell 31st line at all here. Mine is, we thrive on the adrenaline rush of unconventional thinking to grow ideas that inspire change. So, that means that, we honestly do get a big adrenaline rush when we have a challenge from a client and we're thinking it through and we come up with an idea, and we'll put what we call our mini brains in a room, now in a Zoom room, and we will brainstorm and we will build on an idea, and somebody will add to a thought and it builds. And then ultimately our job is to inspire an action or a reaction or whatever, a sale for our client. So our ultimate adrenaline rush is when we actually succeed on behalf of the client and it worked. So, that inspires an action or a change for a client. So that's why our why statement is the way it is. Don't always succeed, by the way. We're not perfect by any means, but we try awfully hard. So, so the 3 to 5 unique value points, whenever possible, think about using pretty strong words. And I always push it as far as I can, which is, I'll suggest words like best, only. If you can come up with one with only in it, we're the only ones that do that, boy, have you got a strong differentiating or unique value point. Okay. I see somebody looking at each other. Does that mean you might have one? All right. So think about that and think about the priority of those points. Okay. How you articulate them. See, that gets me all excited. I'm like, yes, they know what I'm talking about. Good. And then think about what your examples are that support it. So put down, even 2, 3, 5 bullet points that back that up. Right? That's all you have to do. I often do a descriptive paragraph around it that helps describe language. However, you don't have to do that. You can, if you get the basics, you're getting a good start. And then I would look at putting it together into an elevator speech, because I can tell you, if you have the elevator speech, you can plug that into so many places. You know, plug and play, plug and play. You can repeat parts of it in your social media. You can put it on your website. You can use it in something that you're producing. You can use it in signage. You can use it in a brochure. Like, it will go across so many areas, and you'll find it so useful and so easy to reinforce your messaging. And then the equal statement is, okay, that's really nice. Now I've heard your why. I'm a customer, potential customer. So I've heard your why. Okay, yeah, I'm excited about that. You've told me your unique value points, but really, what's in it for me? Why should I care? So that's what it is why should I care? Okay. So let me give you an example of brand language to help you understand better. So I'm going to start off with, this is the elevator speech. A number of years ago, I worked with the Chamber to develop brand language. I was really, really proud and pleased to be able to work with my local chamber to do this. And I think, Kim, you found this helpful, I believe. I'm not sure if you're on mute.
Yes, our board of directors, it was hard. Our board of directors was struggling to define why they were a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So if our board of directors were having trouble with that, how do we entice people to become members of the Chamber of Commerce? If somebody's wanting not to renew their membership or to gain new members, how do we do that if we don't have brand language or we don't understand what exactly we're doing? So it was a great exercise for the board. So yeah, this was wonderful for us.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. It was because I was honored to do it. So their why, and I do love this why. We strive to build a stronger Woodstock by connecting business and community. And I mean, I do love that why. We get up every day to build a stronger Woodstock, and how are we going to do that? We're going to connect business and community, and that captures the chamber to a T. So here's our points of distinction in our little elevator speech. The Chamber is a leading advocate for positive change for our diverse businesses. We also work hard to provide ongoing opportunities to connect business to business and business to community. The Chamber is a channel for businesses to collaborate, communicate, build relationships, and strengthen our community. An important part of the fabric of Woodstock since 1877, we provide a unique combination of valuable membership benefits. We're the only organization that advocates for Woodstock businesses. So you can see it's not like nobody else could say, well, I do a piece of this, but you put it all together and you get a nice package about who the chamber is and what they do. You know, we connect business to business, we connect business to community. You know, we collaborate, we communicate, we build relationships, and we strengthen the overall community through those relationships. You know, we provide this unique combination of membership benefits, and we're the only ones that do advocate for Woodstock businesses. So this is the full chamber brand language, and I'm not going to go through everything with you, but it just goes to show, you know, here's the first unique value point. The Woodstock Chamber is a leading advocate for positive change for our diverse business community, right? And we, you know, the second one with the Woodstock Chamber works hard to provide the variety of ongoing opportunities to connect business to business and business to community, right? So, and the equal statement, the Woodstock Chamber is the only organization that advocates for Woodstock businesses. So that's your reason for joining, right? So if anybody on here isn't a member of the chamber, I do strongly recommend that you join. I've never regretted it. So any questions on that to begin with, or anything there? Just doing a little stop check here.
I do have a question for you, and maybe this is on behalf, because I think we have some small sole proprietors here.
Yes.
So we were able to get together as a group to brainstorm what our unique value proposition is. So how would you suggest a small business, a sole proprietorship business come up with their unique value points?
We do it by collecting facts and then going through the facts and then looking at it and saying, okay, which things we do a session and it really, it does work. We collect all the facts and you'll find certain things repeat. But I've done this with sole proprietorships. I've done it with people with two people. That's it. So you can do this regardless of size. It's actually quite a bit easier. The smaller your business, the easier it is to develop your language. The larger your business, the more you need to get the buy-in, and you need to do a bit of a process to make sure people feel included, people feel part of the process, they got to weigh in. The brand is the brand, and the brand's going to come out the way the brand is. But the more you want to do that, the larger you get and the more people are there, you want to make them feel like they're part of this team and yep, they get it. And if you do that, people become very strong advocates for your brand. So one way you can do this is I do a workshop sometimes where we kind of go through this. I'm also kind of working on doing smaller sessions. I'm working on putting together something that's more economical for very small businesses. Like I've done one on Zoom recently with it was a group project actually that was put together, and I just did one. And I've done that before actually with small businesses where one person was in Ontario and the other owner was out west. We just did it by Zoom. It's actually, like I say, a pretty simple process. So I do have a worksheet that, can be helpful, but it's really a matter of collecting, here's the facts about this business. We started 10 years ago, we have a customer service satisfaction of 98%. We have this, we have that. We make soap, we make, different scents. We make, something that's easy on the skin. I'm just picking anything and making it up, right? So make a list of all your facts and then go through that list and say, okay, which of those stand out, or which of these are like proof points and which of these are actually, things that make us different. Okay. Does that help? A couple more questions, right, Kim? Yeah. Oh, somebody. Yes, Simon is Ramona's go-to guru. Okay. What does being part of the chamber include, and how often does the chamber get together? So being part of the chamber actually includes quite a lot. And right now, I'll let Kim answer how often we get together. But there's often, in any time of normal years, there's a get together usually almost once a month. So it's pretty worthwhile networking opportunities and all kinds of other events. But I'll let Kim comment on this very unusual of years and other benefits.
So normally we have a lot of in-person events, but this year, obviously, because of COVID, we've been doing a number of virtual networking events. And then we do host sessions like this. This session isn't to sell the Chamber of Commerce or 31st Line. This is to help you with your brand. But it's a longer conversation, and I would prefer to do it offline. So if you want any information, please reach out to me at gm@woodstockchamber.ca. And then I am going to get back to Laura after the session, just to let her know.
I'm not trying to sell chamber here, but I am a big believer in chambers. So I wanted to give you the opportunity because I do want to move along. But now the other thing I wanted to point out just before I leave brand language is, people say positioning or a tagline. To me, a tagline is a sexy statement that it can come and go. A positioning line really talks about the core of what you do and the heart of all this language that you develop. And once you think about what your differences are, and your positioning line for the chamber is we connects and advocates, because that's what the chamber's job is to connect people, connect businesses, and to advocate on behalf of businesses. So we did it in 3 words. So I always say you make an elevator speech of 100 words, and then let's get it down to 3 to 5 and put it with our logo. So that's an even bigger challenge sometimes. Okay, moving on here. Except my screen didn't want to move. There we go. I'm going to move on and just talk for a minute about employees. And for those of you that don't have employees, I'll apologize in advance, but I'm not going to dwell on this. So I want to remind people, but I will also say, if you don't have employees today, you may someday. So this is useful to know. Employees are your brand. Employees represent your brand every single day. They're living it out there. If they're doing a good job, you're going to have a good reputation. If they're not doing a good job, you're not going to have a good reputation. That's why it's so important to lead from the top down. You know, if you're going to be brand driven, understand, articulate it, you know, understand and live up to your brand, and let that drive some of your decisions, some of your prioritization, etc. This is what we're living up to. These are what our priorities should be, right? And if you work with them to understand it and empower them to be able to use this language, then they feel really good. Because I don't know how many people have ever gone to a company to work and gone, geez, what am I allowed to say? If I, you know, you say, well, I work at such and such. That's kind of boring. What if you say, you know, I work at a place where, you know, we strive to make Woodstock better. You know, that's what Kim's why is, right? Essentially, only I shortened it. So. And I'm going backwards. Told you, techno idiot. All right. So then I want to talk a little bit about branding. Okay. I want to talk about other items. So we'll get into more of the nitty gritty now. So how is your logo? So for example, now that you've got your brand language, look at your logo and say, okay, does this match? Is it good? Is it a good quality? Does it look dated? Does it look, you know, modern? Does it fit my image and what I think my company is, right? Do you have that positioning line that I just talked about? Do I have that 3 to 5 words that tells somebody something about who I am and what I do? Not what I do, but, you know, what I'm all about with my logo. So think about how well your logo represents your brand. And I can't tell you how important it is to have a good quality logo, and how many clients that are small that I run into that go, well, I've got a logo, but it's pretty poor quality and pretty fuzzy. And that's your visual representation of your brand. You know, it's the first thing people see about you sometimes. So if there's one thing you should do, it's make sure your logo is good quality. Promotional materials, are they consistent? So do they all look different? I mean, I've seen that with companies where you go in and you look at a brochure stand and you're like, these all from the same company? And then on the other hand, you go into another company and they all look like they're a family, right? It looks like they're a series. They look blended. Their brand is the same. They use their similar colors. They use similar fonts, and what have you. So that provides a certain image for you. It makes you look very professional, very organized, right? And think about whether your materials are organized or are they dated or modern or dated. Like, what is the look there? You know, is it, and who's your audience? Do they fit what your audience is? If you've got a young audience, you know, are they fun? Are they fresh and simple and what have you, and quick hits? If you've got, you know, an older audience, do you have large enough fonts for people to read? You know, that kind of thing. And are you using colors consistently? Like, it's not a matter of saying, what color do I feel like using today? What colors are in your logo? What complementary colors do you use? And be consistent about it. Okay. So the a little more about the team, building trust with your team. This is a great quote from Simon Sinek's book. It's called Leaders Eat Last, and he talks about a circle of safety. And what he says is, if you have employees, if people feel like they're about to get stabbed in the back internally, then they look internal and they worry about their jobs and they worry about who they can trust. If you build trust in team and people feel that they have each other's backs, then they kind of look externally, right? So you think about a circle where either everybody's looking inside the circle and worried about the inside of the circle, or you tell them to turn around and put their backs to the inside and they're working at, you know, at the outside, so at the customer, right? So when trust and cooperation thrive internally, we pull together and the organization grows stronger as a result. So I can't emphasize that enough. I've found that as well. Something I do really recommend for doing this are simple things I'm trying to highlight today. For the most part, you want to eliminate terms like I and me out of people. Like when you're talking, you want to talk about we, us, and together, talk about team, and talk about pulling together. And part of the reason I'm putting this in there is I believe it's even more important in these kind of weird and uncertain times we're going through. Although we're all kind of settling down and getting used to things, it's still very scary for a lot of employees. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes. Like I can see it in my own small team. So please don't discount that, because somebody may seem okay, but they may not be. Like, I mean, I've had it one person who's I call them the overachiever millennial moms, and she's just mental health wise, she is not good. And she just turned in her resignation yesterday and she said to me, which was the saddest thing, she said, I have to quit because I don't want my kids to have a crappy Christmas. And I'm like, I told her, I said, you are the most fantastic mom. And no matter what you did, your kids could never have a crappy Christmas. It just would not happen with this lady because she's wonderful. But she doesn't see that right now. And she's so overwhelmed. So just keep those kind of things in mind. Some key messages to reinforce with employees during times of stress or crisis or uncertainty. It's, we are a team. We'll get through this together. We care. And here's the one exception to I care as the owner of the business. That's okay to say, right? I care about you. You are important and your role is critical. Thank our employees for everything they're doing. And then also encourage them to talk to us, that the door is open. So I'll give you one other very quick example. I asked an employee how her kids were. She has 4 kids. They started school. I said, how did it go? And she said, the night before school started, her oldest, who's about 10, was very quiet. And she couldn't understand what was going on. She said, okay. She said, what's up? What's going on? And he said, well, Mom, he's a very laid back kid too. He's sensitive, but not like he can be quite easygoing too. And he said, Mom, I'm afraid I'm going to get COVID and die. Those are the deep thoughts that parents have around, that are going on around us, that we may not realize, right? So these key messages that I'm suggesting don't change anytime they shouldn't change, period. But in times of more uncertainty, you need to use them more. So keep repeating them. Also morale, I'll just speak to, and this is some Simon Sinek quotes that I love, and the importance of customer. So customers will never love a company until the employee loves it first, if you ever doubt the importance of your employees. And it's not work we remember with fondness, but the camaraderie, how the group came together to get things done. Again, back to that teamwork. So communication is absolutely key to making employees feel safe and appreciated, and that builds your morale, and that also builds your brand and makes you stand out. So I'm saying that very much for a reason. Okay, last part here, I want to talk about being strategic, and I think I'm doing fairly well. So, okay, we all recognize we're doing more right now. We can't do everything and be all things to all people. So we need to understand who our target audience is and are. So what age group are you going after? What do they like? What are their demographics? What do they like to do? Where do they like to, congregate, now virtually to some degree, but tell us some attributes about who you're going after. How do they like to receive information? Okay, we need to be in more than one place. Anymore, you can't say, well, I'll have a website and that's it, or we'll have a brochure and that's it. You can't. You have to be in multiple places. However, what's that audience's preferred method? Where do they go? So then that tells you priorities, right? And where do they go online? Because almost everybody these days is going online, okay? In terms of your website, a few things just to comment on. If anybody on here doesn't have one, get one. It can be basic. Today, it has to be mobile friendly. Anywhere between 60 and 80% of people are accessing websites anymore off a mobile device. So, we design mobile first and desktop second now. The homepage has to load very quickly. And you may need to, even if your website is relatively new, it's worthwhile to check it and see how quickly it loads. We all are bombarded and inundated with information. And if your website doesn't load in 2 seconds, people bounce. They'll just be gone. They're frustrated. And things that will help you reduce your homepage size are reducing your image sizes, saving them smaller, and also sometimes plugins can affect it as well if you're on a WordPress site. That's just a couple of thoughts, but that is really something very important to watch. And if you think about it, we've all done it. We've all bounced off a website. It's not loading quick enough. Dang, I'm going somewhere else, right? We all do it. Make sure your brand header is consistent. I've just put, you're going to see, this is one client of ours that I didn't do his website actually, but I'm just using him as an example because of something that's coming up in a moment. And you can see his website. This is his clean, clear, simple. You'll see his colors are turquoise and orange. I did not do his logo. I don't want credit on that one actually, but his name works for him and he does work.
Karen, it's Ramona. There's a question that came in and I don't want you to get too far ahead before we miss the question, but
I did miss that one. Thank you, Ramona.
No, that's okay. Laura's just asking, if you have to go after a variety of age groups, how do you target each audience?
Okay. So no, it depends on your product. And here's how I target. Okay. Like I would target based on opportunity. Where is your biggest opportunity? Think about that. So where am I going to get the biggest bang for what I got to do? So I would start there. I always say you can accomplish something with any budget and, any number of, if you're small, you just have to pick priorities. So I would prioritize based on my biggest opportunity, to be honest with you. And that you can pick an age group there, or it can be another characteristic. It doesn't have to be an age group. And how do you target each audience? It differs for each audience. Like if I'm talking digitally, and I'm focusing a lot digitally in this presentation because of the fact that you've all been like, you all could go on a webinars for Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And so now I would be going, oh my God, how am I ever going to get all these and do all this? Okay, wait a minute. What's our priorities? Where's our audience? If you're going after really young people, then Instagram may be where you want to be because they like it instant, or it could be some of the other ones now for some of the younger audiences as well too. If you're going after business to business, Twitter can be very good. It depends on what segment you're going after, what industry, but business to business can use Twitter. LinkedIn is another option for business to business to some degree. I found it very useful for hiring recently, actually. I put an ad on it, not cheap, but I did put a hiring ad on it. Facebook, if you're going after boomers, they're on Facebook. However, I just did some stuff with a client and we were looking over the Google Analytics and we're like, and we had some stats we were going over and some results, and we're like, how do we get such a young audience on Facebook? So don't discount it, but in general, you can sort of pick and choose by thinking about the biggest opportunity and how they like to get their information. That's the biggest thing, is you ask yourself how you like to get your information. If you have further questions about a certain thing, you can also contact me after. I'm fine. I'll try and help you a little bit more specifically. Does that answer? Okay. Come on here. Okay. All right. So the website, use your Google Analytics. Make sure that you are monitoring and measuring and adjusting. Do you have a call to action on your key pages? So that can be anything from, contact us for more information, and you click on the button and you fill out a form. That kind of thing is simple, right? How do they get in touch from each page? Don't make them look, right? Is it easy to navigate? Can you find stuff? Because I'll tell you, if you put something on social media and then you link it to your homepage, and what the tweet or what the post was about is not there, they'll bounce, because they'll be like, that's not what I was looking for. They'll just go bounce. You got to make sure it's linked to the proper part of the website. Okay. So think about what information is useful, though, when you're using analytics, and how you will use it and adjust. So like some of the things you can get is, okay, how many page views are you getting? How many unique page views? That's how many these are actual stats I just copied from one client. So they're a small company. They had 816 page views in a month. They had 260 unique page views. So that means 260 people visited their site. They visited an average of 9.2 pages per session. I'm not really happy about the average time on the page, the 13 seconds, but there was only a 35% bounce rate there, which is good. The bounce rate is under 50%. So overall, that is pretty good. People got what they wanted, where they wanted it. So those kind of things can just tell you an overview and help you. In terms of making sure your website is consistent in your social media. So I just showed you this. We do other work with this client. I did, as I say, I haven't done, he came to me after website and what have you, but we helped with some social media headers. So here's your header for Facebook. Here's your header for LinkedIn. Here's your header for Twitter. Note, we've repeated the same photo. We're using a family. We're using the turquoise. We're using the orange. Indoor air quality professionals you can trust is there. And then gotmold.ca, like it's right there. You can click on, right? So that's important. All right. So remember, with social media, where's your biggest opportunity? You're much better to do one well than to do all of them poorly. Like if you start off and do one well and learn it well, then add another one in. That would be my advice. Twitter's really good, as I said, for business. It's also really good for agriculture, which I happen to do. And I went through some of this as well. Instagram, very visual. So if you have a business where it lends itself to a lot of visuals and photos and new products and different things, then Instagram is probably a really good place to be. Is your audience there, and does the business lend itself to it, right? And as I said, LinkedIn for hiring. So the other thing is Google My Business. Do you have a Google My Business listing? Is it accurate? What photos are on there? Are they generating any interest? Are they good, representative of your brand? Is your brand consistent? And graphics and photos. So this is just something we're working with. We set up Google My Business. This guy has a lot of locations, and we set up some virtual locations and did some visuals for him. So we put together, the first one, the first little graphic is one we did just so that right away they know what he does. If you have mold, water problems, fire, or asbestos issues, you're in the right place. And then we did some good photos with each of the headings and what have you, making it consistent across so that it's reinforcing who he is and what he does, right? All right, another point, do you have digital advertising? So some of you may or may not have e-commerce. Think about how it's working. Is it working? Does anybody go to your site? Does anybody buy, right? Does it make sense for you? Are you on Digital Main Street? Because I know Ramona's been involved in helping with some of that. I think, Kim, there was a seminar on Digital Main Street this week about this, right? And don't forget, like Engage Oxford, we're working on Engage Oxford site. It's not directly necessarily at first to be a e-commerce, but there's other opportunities for you to be places where you promote your business and where your business can be, where they could then click on something and go directly to your own e-commerce. Okay. So, make sure that you're taking advantage of any of those free opportunities that you can get out there to promote yourself. All right. So think about, are you getting leads from your website and your social media? And if not, you need to think about, okay, why not? And that's a broader discussion about content and what your goals are and what your putting on there, etc. But is there an opportunity to generate more leads online? In most cases, there is. And do you have, here's another question, because what you do will depend on this. Do you have some discretionary budget, or can you direct some budget from somewhere else onto something on and does it make sense? Okay. Not everybody does. I recognize that. So some ways you can take advantage of any budget if you have it is to boost ads on social media. So Facebook's economical, Twitter is fairly economical. LinkedIn, you can do it. It's costly. I'll say that. You want to pick and choose, and unless you have a good budget, I wouldn't want to be there all the time, or unless I was totally relying on it and getting a return on my investment. Google AdWords is something that's becoming more and more and more important in this digital age. And we do a ton of Google AdWords work, but I really have to say it's an art, not a science. And that's because, I mean, they keep changing it. They keep changing the rules. They keep changing everything. So you have to work at it constantly. It requires ongoing monitoring, measuring, and adjusting. And, you know, your cost is going to vary depending on what words you're buying and how popular they are and what have you. So it can range. I mean, you can buy some words and you can buy something and pay $5. You can, for others, you're going to pay $60. So like there's this big range, right? But you can target well through Google AdWords. It can be very effective. Like that client that I just showed you, Got Mold, he relies totally on Google AdWords mainly to drive leads and what have you. He has huge, it's a big, 20 campaigns. It's like, it's very deep. So he's analytical, and he goes through his numbers, and he helps us a lot so that he can give us insight and input. He's got it connected to his database. And it works really well for him. So it can be effective, but you're looking at 500 to 1,000 a month. So that may well be out of reach for some small businesses, and I get that. But it's just something to keep in mind for anybody where it isn't out of reach. In summary, I'll say, we need to understand and articulate our brands out there. We need to deliver them consistently. We need to help employees live our brand. And we need to ensure fonts, visuals, and colors are consistent, keep them simple, and keep them clean. In terms of being strategic, make sure you know your audience, look at where your opportunities are, identify your priorities that way, and then use digital, but do it well. Like what you're going to do well. So rather than try to do it all at once, do one thing well, then add something. And then if online lead generation makes sense, things like Google AdWords, Google My Business is something well worth doing for every business, and most businesses have it, but it's well worth looking at to make sure it's what you want. And then social media ad boosts. So that's my presentation. I do have a little video for an end here, and it's about employees and customer service and brand. So. So I hope you enjoyed that. And that's a true story. And honestly, I hope you all go out there and be a Johnny in your own way today and going forward. So thanks for taking all this time out of your day. And I hope you got something useful out of the presentation. I can still take a couple of questions, but I went right to time and a little bit over, Kim. Sorry.
Nope. We had some time, so nothing like making me tear up before the end of the presentation.
I've watched it dozens of times, but that's absolutely a true story, and that's living the brand to the nth degree. That's what he was doing, you know. So
if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself too. We don't have to use the chat box right now. And normally we're a pretty quiet group.
Thank you.
Or use the chat.
Thank yous. Yeah. Okay. So I got a couple of thank yous on there. You're welcome. Well, I hope it was useful. I don't mind having comments either about feedback too. So, because it's always difficult to know how deep to go and how high level when you have a broad range of participants, right? So I tried to target it so there was some specifics and some higher level too. Oh, I know my eyes are watering. I've seen it dozens of times, and it's, you know, it's the truth, but it's that much more powerful because it's true, right? But that is like, it inspires me. That story, I think of it often, and it inspires me to live my brand and help my customers achieve their goals. And like I say, I don't always win. I'm not always successful. I failed too, but man, I'll pick my socks up and go right out there and start over and try again. And we have big wins too. So just keep trying. Keep going.
It just goes to show you something so simple as that can transform you. And then it can be, contagious, because the flower department and broken flowers and the corsages for people, there's
somebody I'm following on Twitter right now, and she's been through a really tough time. She was kind of naive in that she's trusting and she's a good person, and she tried to help somebody and got her own life really screwed up because of it. But she's had a job. She's a minimum wage job in a dollar store down in the US. And like, her way of dealing with her problems was to throw herself into work and to give 100%. And she believes in turning something negative into a positive. And as a result of that, their store is now recognized as the best store regionally for customer service. And she put on social media the other day that she'd had 5 compliments forms filled out, thank you forms from customers, and she got a call from the regional manager, and they've asked her to talk at a meeting of all the managers of the other stores in their region. So you know, she has turned that around, and really she is making something very positive of it, and it's, you know, helping her too, right? And it's helping her store and the customers, and she's so living the brand. So it happens. Okay. All right. If that's it, thank you, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And again, I was honored to be here. And I thank Ramona and Kim for thinking of me and asking me.
Oops. Sorry, I was just copying the chat window there. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Thank you so much, Karen, for putting this on for us. I know I even learned some more stuff again today, so this was great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. That's great. That's good to hear. Thank you. Have a great day and a great weekend, everybody. And go out there and be Johnny in your own way. I will. Right. I'm determined.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.